Bad movie drinking game. 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 Bad movie drinking game.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
A world at risk.
Batman will watch his beloved Gotham perish.
Just what I had in mind. Everything dead on Earth except us.
Yes.
When Venom meets vengeance. And justice cannot fight alone.
Suit me up, Uncle Alfred.
I'm asking you, friend, partner, brother. Will you help me?
Strength now.
Partners?
Partners.
Courage always.
Partners.
Family above all.
Welcome to Bad Movie Drinking Game, the show where we watch a movie and build you a drinking game so you can enjoy the film to its maximum potential. I'm your host, Kurt, and with us is Mel.
Woo!
Franklin.
Hello.
And Ryan.
Hello.
We're going to watch Batman and Robin, guys!
Finally!
Joel Schumacher masterpiece.
And I thought we were friends.
Come on, guys. Batman and effing Robin. What do you guys think?
I think you owe me money.
Would you accept beer?
Is there money in the beer?
There was money spent on the beer,
Time is money, and beer will often control your perceptions of time passing,
Ooh.
so...
so it'll be over before you know it.
I hope so. We can only pray.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I'm very excited.
What is the first time you've seen this movie, and what is the last time you've seen this movie? Hopefully those are not the same two things, but we'll start with you, Mel.
They are, in fact, the same instance. Yes. I used to work at the movie theater back in 1997, and we screened this bad boy. And, oh, wow. Wow, heinous. Never again. Never again. I've caught, like, snippets of it on the television, over the years, but I have not watched it in its entirety, in its awful entirety, since that first day.
Oh, it's best watched in its entirety.
I too, first and last time was on opening night in 1997. I remember the theater being about a quarter full. I guess I don't know, I was a little more optimistic. I don't know why. I do know why, because we talked about this on the way over here, and that's because the trailer was actually very, very engaging.
That's right, yeah.
The trailer made it look dramatic. It made it look at least fun, but not in an over-the-top kind of way that we got. There were no bat credit cards in the trailer. That might have been the reason.
It was a spectacular lie, that trailer.
Yeah.
Fabulous fiction.
Lie.
You know what else
but
the trailer had, right? The theme from the original Batman.
That's true.
So it
It
tricks
had
you.
that closing music when he's standing up at the end and the bell tower's dinging. Yeah, that was in that trailer. So that was what it did. That's
Which
what
in
it
retrospect should not have been allowed.
really sealed the deal on it.
Franklin.
I mean, I saw it in the theater, opening day.
And the next
Scarred
time?
ever since.
I don't think I was ever really scarred by it.
When was the next time you went?
I saw it again in theaters. And then I saw it when I bought it on VHS.
Your relationship with it is like an abusive relationship. It's like you
could say
keep
that.
going back to
I
it.
am-
I quit you.
Batman and Robin loves me.
You can't say I am painfully familiar with this movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
This movie might have been one of the first times in my childhood where I went, like where I saw an ad for it and I went, I don't think this is gonna be good.
You went anyway.
No, I stayed away from it in the theater and I watched it on VHS when it came out, and I was like, this is odd.
It's like Ralph Wiggum's swimming harness. He's like, this doesn't feel right. That feel like you've been violated in some subversive way.
I rented it from Blockbuster Video. I remember it was rated PG-13 for innuendo, and I had to learn what the word innuendo was.
Come join me. My garden needs tending.
I have bad taste up until I'm like...
Yesterday.
My taste...
You just said you love Batman and Robin like 5 minutes ago.
I do, but for a different reason.
This is still happening.
Batman and Robin, it would flowered for me.
Is there something wrong with Batman and Robin?
I'm leaving.
This is the action comedy of a generation. Come on, guys. This is like our generation's Temple of Doom.
I recall neither action nor comedy. Our generation's Temple of Doom? Is that what you just said?
We're watching Batman and Robin.
We're gonna do a good movie drinking game, and we're gonna watch Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom because it is awesome.
And now it's time for the rules of tonight's drinking game. We're gonna go ahead and start off with you, Mel.
First rule: whenever anyone uses a pun, and believe me, there will be several, take a drink. Take 2 drinks if the pun makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Anytime someone in the film references the script's fictional McGregor syndrome disease that is a driving plot point of this.
His wife contracted a rare disease, McGregor syndrome.
McGregor syndrome, that's what Frieza's wife had.
Yes. Show me how to cure McGregor syndrome stage 1.
Take a drink.
Anytime Master Thespian George Clooney does his patented head wobble while he's trying to talk to somebody, take a drink. That includes when he's wearing the bat suit and he can barely do it because the neck won't move properly. He tries.
He does.
Anytime Robin whines about anything, which he will, I swear, take a drink.
Anytime the film is clearly showing you something just to sell you a toy, i.e. toyetic, as they call it in the biz, or they're just tying in some sort of weird merchandising to the film, take a drink.
Anytime the villains are speaking to one another and their plans clearly clash with one another and they shouldn't be working together.
I will blanket the city in endless winter.
Once you have frozen mankind, these babies will overrun the globe.
Take a drink.
And finally, the shark repellent clause, which is anytime Batman and Robin have gadgets that are awfully convenient for the situation they're in, but they couldn't prepare themselves for. Take a drink.
I like to propose another rule too. Like anytime you're watching the movie and you find yourself wishing you were watching Batman Forever instead, like when things are at their bleakest, you could just go ahead and drink, but it's like sad drinking. It's not like fun party drinking.
That's a little subjective, but I like that.
This is like weeping drinking.
It's just used as a coping mechanism.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Everyone rags on this movie because it clearly killed the Batman franchise.
Yes. Me more than anyone.
And, I mean, one, you should be thankful because we wouldn't have gotten the Christopher Nolan movies without this movie.
It's a bullet of mercy.
If this one had hit, we would have gotten a third Joel Schumacher movie.
So should we thank Joel Schumacher for this?
No, you never thank Joel Schumacher.
I kind of felt like thanking him after falling down.
I'm the bad guy?
That was pretty good.
Right, see, I mean, like, he's...
Why didn't that guy make a Batman movie?
I'm looking at this movie differently because I haven't seen it since 97. That's almost 20 years, right? Almost. Because we were very anti-1960s Batman TV show at that time because we were really struggling to get away from that sort of idea.
Batman's a serious character. He's a detective.
He's a grown-ass man who puts on tights and runs around on rooftops. He's not serious.
And whose sole purpose in life is to beat up poor people.
So I'm looking at this time not as a Batman film in the 90s, but as an adaptation of the Batman 60s television show, and I want to see if it holds up under that mindset, because that's not how I watched it the first time.
Plenty of neon and black lights.
I want the sets to look alarmingly fake. I want the hamminess that I know is there to just blossom.
All this
that's what
missing.
I'm looking for.
It was just missing the pows and the bams.
It's also missing the understatement of an Adam West.
That's true, too.
Because the head wobble, again, it's just very aggressive.
So overt.
West was not a head wobbler
Not so
by
much.
any stretch of the imagination.
Well,
I think that was his title of his autobiography. I am not a head wobbler.
by any stretch of the imagination.
A little asterisk.
A life in latex. Dim the lights, whip out your Coolio CD, and enjoy Batman and Robin.
I hate when people talk during the movie.
Am I ready? Am I ready for this?
You can do it, man.
Or any of us ready for this? Lens flares!
Oh, that's what we're watching? Nipples. Ass.
Oh, wow.
Cock.
Ass.
Jeez.
Oh, God, stop. Take it down a notch.
Ah! Jeez, what the hell?
The Iceman cometh.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
Yeah? No. You?
It's just like Cirque du Soleil.
More like Cirque du Soleil.
Do I drink from that point, too? What is happening?
Oh, I like that.
Good night, sweet prince.
Would kill him immediately.
He's got some serious upper body strength in order to do that. He just deadlifted a 180-pound guy.
He's a Robin. He's got hollow bones.
What do you think, dickhead?
Keep me in the fire, you. The following match is scheduled for one fall. Coming to the ring.
I can't believe they're showing Junior in the Batcave.
We gonna trap ourselves a snowman?
Don't talk, please.
10 hours in the simulator training.
Look, I made a mistake. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
he has
Well,
a
pretend
simulator
like-
trainer?
Yeah, like, what is he, running a submarine? What is...
Freeze tonight.
Head jiggle going on.
Here,
Yeah.
alive?
Gonna put you in the danger room.
Every time his head wobbles, I feel inclined to make that sound effect. Aye. God, it's doing it even now.
Yeah. This is what the world looks like to him because his head is always tilted because that wobble.
He's been holding that this whole. It's like this was like a soap opera that he starred on.
It's just stomp.
Is the movie in group? This is Lion King the musical.
It's Legend of the Hidden Temple music.
Man, Gloria Estefan was right. The rhythm will eventually
Right.
get you.
Okay, we got it.
We heard it.
We're good.
You know what's funny about this is I think we've seen more special moves from Street Fighter in this than we did when we won Street Fighter.
How did he propel himself up like that?
Ice.
That sound.
And good luck.
Oh.
Cool body.
Oh, toast. Oh, that's
Yeah. Do we not lock the door too?
Alfred always lets them in, you know that. The precedent set by every previous Batman movie.
Wow, like a cat lead, a scientist, and an ice sculptor? Is there nothing this guy can't do?
Act.
The music would imply that there are spiders on the way. You can't stop Bane while he's on his Nickelodeon Kids toy run.
Turns out diamonds aren't forever.
Commissioner Gordon, for the love of God, if you don't straighten that fucking hat.
Oh, where's the bar?
Batman. Steve Batman.
Wow, look at that ice. It moves just like real ice.
Yeah.
Floppy and everything. It moves like George Clooney's head.
Oh no, Alfred was building a spaceship? He was planning to leave Earth?
He has a mid-90s screensaver with a bat boat on it. He's flying at you.
Oh no, God, it's Batman and Robin. Turn it off, turn it off.
Batman and Robin. Thoughts?
Bad. Very
Not
bad.
as bad as I remembered it.
Yeah, right?
I gotta hand it to you. I mean,
Transcendent.
Nope. Nope, not gonna. I'm gonna stop short of that. But
Egalitarian.
but not,
I don't know
not
what that
nearly
means.
as bad as I remembered.
You've got Bane doing 2-word improv game.
basically the equivalent of that toy plant you would buy in the 90s that would dance along to music. Like, that's basically what Bane is doing in this movie.
He's doing loose word association. You just gotta. He just needs to know his name and what he's doing.
He's doing his worst Karloff impression. To be fair, no one in this movie has particularly good dialogue.
No, not at all.
Damn's not good.
A lot more puns
Yeah.
than I
Very
recall.
funny.
You are not sending me to the cool.
My vines have a crush on you.
So this is where you hang out.
It's like the first script completely comprised of puns.
They never bothered to rewrite it.
No.
That takes effort.
Why would you?
Batman movies were like printing money back in the 90s.
That's
You know?
true.
2 new costumes per movie. You get the main costume and then a specialist costume
Change
for
the car. One of the things that I really noticed about this movie is how much they pay tribute to and then completely squander the revamped Mr. Freeze origin from the animated series. Because Mr. Freeze was like a nonsense character, just a one-trick pony from like 59, I think, he debuted, on until like the 90s, and then like the animated series.
Bruce Timm and Paul Dini came along,
they-
and that was
they
Paul
gave
Dini's
him-
first episode.
They gave him an origin that turned him into Batman's most fascinating villain. And then this movie kind of embraces a huge chunk of that.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but like it really, really embraces the 60s aesthetic so much that it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of face pissing going on in their rendition of Mr. Freeze.
Does anybody find it a little bit troubling that he kind of has a girlfriend in this? He does draw a line. He's like, I'm not going to fuck you. I'm waiting for my wife to get cured of McGregor syndrome.
What happened to her? Like, I mean, she was in one scene, am I right?
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't miss
basic.
another scene where she was in there, right?
Well, that was the part that was true to life.
He's like, this guy's got to have a girlfriend. It's like, but he has a wife. Yeah, but he needs like a side piece, you know what I'm saying?
When your wife is in suspended animation, it's not technically cheating. That's a horrible thing to say.
No, it's not even. That's not even a thing.
Talk about your cold shoulder.
If a heart's not beating, it's not cheating.
Oh, God.
Why isn't that
Very nice.
This incarnation of Mr. Beast feels very Arnold. Like, not just because he's played it, but he's got a goddamn cigar through half the movie.
Yeah, it's like he just showed up. He's like, splay some blue paint on me. I'm ready. Go.
Got a girl on the side from his wife, a delicate woman who can't be had at the moment.
Freeze ray.
He's got basically a car that might as well be a Hummer. They both get 3 miles to the gallon.
Most of the scenes in this movie with Arnold wouldn't even clash with half of his filmography. Like The Running Man, Predator, Commando. He's always been punny.
Some steam, Bennett.
Part of the reason they got him, I guess.
Yeah.
We need somebody to deliver these puns.
In a lot of those scenes, it feels like he just wandered onto the set and fell into that suit, and they just started rolling. They were like, "This is too good not to use."
There are moments in this movie where he seems to be running off of pure cocaine. I don't know about like his eyes will just be like, "Yes, Batman killing them."
I've never seen him more alive.
There's a lot of work with his eyes. In
I
this
wonder what he
movie.
did to prepare for this role. Because he obviously didn't read anything or
No.
watch anything.
No, they're like, "You're a guy who really likes the cold. Got it."
Just run with that. That's all you need.
So the toy imagery in this movie, I think it's really funny because like you're watching it and every exterior shot of Gotham City, like panning through, it's like there was some sort of citywide revitalization project that went on after Burton's Batman movies were over, and they were like, we've hired these great architects, they're the members of the Hot Wheels development team, and they're Mattel's finest, and they're going to design an entirely new city for
I
us.
want you to build anything that we can't jump a car off of.
Every
We can't drive a car off this. It's no good.
Every time I see a shot of an alleyway, I imagine it's gonna like pan up and there's gonna be Christopher Lloyd. He's gonna be like, "I'm sorry I couldn't build this to scale, Marty. I didn't have enough time." Everything looks like a
Please
model.
excuse the crudity of this model.
Oh.
So where did they go wrong? Is the question with this film.
Somewhere halfway through Batman Forever, I think they went wrong. And that's where everything shifted.
This goes way back.
Because, I mean, you watch Batman Forever, and it's kind of dialed back a bit.
It's only dialed back a bit because we haven't seen this yet.
Like, it seemed really excessive and extreme in Batman Forever, but then you get to Batman and Robin, it's like, whoa, he was really unchecked on this one.
Everything's relative.
So I've always felt that with the Batman films, and even up through the second Christopher Nolan movie, you always get a first Batman movie where the director's hired to sort of do what the studio wants, and then the second one is always
where the wheels come off the wagon?
Well, you can say that.
Batman Returns is where the wheels split off so you can fit down an alleyway.
Yeah.
The second one is always the unchecked id of the director.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
the second one for Tim Burton, where he gets to really embellish the freak nature of his character.
Yeah, we've all seen like the preliminary sketches of the Penguin and Catwoman for that movie. I don't think we've ever seen a prelim sketch from Tim Burton for the Joker.
That's
right.
And then
That
you got
sort of
Dark
thing.
Knight. You basically get from Christopher Nolan a full-blown crime thriller.
Absolutely. It's like
He
Heat.
basically, yeah, exactly. He
Yeah.
makes Heat again.
Yeah.
But it has like superhero characters.
It's better than Heat, kind of, in some ways.
In some ways.
Some ways.
Batman and Robin, you get, well, this is what Joel Schumacher wanted to make whenever he doesn't have to answer to the studio.
Batman and Robin felt like a fever dream, though.
That's
like
sort of
it felt like the kind of like he woke in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. And he was like, I know what to do.
That's exactly what happened.
Well, Joel Schumacher, basically his unchecked it is to do more of what Batman Forever was.
So he's trying to make Busby Berkeley things like all the time. Is that his deal? Like he's trying to make like huge, garish.
It's a cartoon. It is big and elaborate.
Yeah, it's all his loves in one place. It's part cartoon and part disco.
The neon.
The phrase he used a lot during the behind-the-scenes featurettes on this was a living comic book.
We're talking about movies that came the closest to be a living comic book. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
The Rocketeer?
I would say The Rocketeer and Dick Tracy were the two.
Oh,
Dick
Tracy. I'll go out and say it. Dick Tracy is a fantastic movie.
That's funny that was his intention.
Yeah.
Because what comic book is he reading?
Exactly.
But again, this is the 90s. And this one was 1997. And 90s were the hallmark of like neon, foil embossed, 3D, every sort of embellishment we can cram into this thing.
7 versions of one issue, multiple covers.
I'm sure there was some sort of comic out there that you had to read under a black light to even read the damn thing.
It was most likely by Rob Liefeld.
Is that what he's talking about? Because
Maybe.
otherwise, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Joel Schumacher was already ready to be making a musical at this point.
Oh, without a doubt.
And that is what happened.
This feels like an opera
Feels like an opera, and there's so many like Cirque du Soleil-ish elements in it. They're like people on wires. There's so much like flying through the air.
And wire work is completely unapologetic.
Oh, it's horrible. It's
It's
not like Iron
everything
Monkey.
looks like he's just floating around on wires. Humans don't move like that. I don't care whether they were acrobats in the circus or not growing up.
Yeah, people will just move like diagonal movement
through the air with the greatest of ease.
Joe Schumacher has always been a good screenwriter short of a good movie. Every movie he's done.
I'll agree with that. Because Flatliners is not bad.
Falling Down is not
Falling
bad.
Down is certainly not bad. Tigerland is good.
I have to
Time
say,
to Kill is good.
watching this
Bumpin'.
again, the staging of this movie is fucking ridiculous, but at the same time, every shot of it is good. He's got a good eye.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, I'm watching this and I was like, I've seen bad movies before, and this one's a well-shot bad movie.
This is sort of the sort of thing where you can't judge it against other Batman movies or even what your conception of a Batman movie would be. Just judge it on its own as a thing. And yeah, there are parts of it that stand out as being like, that's artistic.
My mom hates comic books, but she watched Smallville for 3 seasons and loved it because she didn't realize it had anything to do with Superman.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. You have to remove the Batman element.
I also feel like this reveals that Joe Schumacher doesn't really have anything beneath the surface because he essentially makes the same movie again. As far as like the same type of visuals and stuff.
Yeah, it's just louder and brighter.
Like his sequel looks the most like the previous movie compared to the other two. I mean, Christopher Nolan was a stickler for continuity, but he shot in different cities for every single one of his movies.
Yeah. That's true.
So nothing in The Dark Knight looks like Batman Begins.
It's true.
And then Tim Burton was allowed to do whatever he wanted.
And
so
you could tell, too.
Yeah.
Between Christopher Walken's eyes bulging out of his skull at the end of the movie after he gets fried. And the rockets on the penguin. But yeah, he went all in.
Other than exaggerating sets, Batman and Robin looks like Batman Forever.
It looks like they took every bit of space that was there in Batman Forever and they put more shit in the Gotham.
Let's bring in some more 10-story statues of people hunched over.
It looks so cluttered.
And then Arkham added 15 new stories to it.
and a cliff.
Let's talk about Uma Thurman's style of acting in this. She's like Mae West turned up to 11.
She does a lot of different things in this, though. I mean, it's not even just Mae West. It's like Mae West in like one scene, but then it's like something completely different the next.
She's got a little Katharine Hepburn in her.
You seem quite contemptuous of me all of a sudden.
It's a fairly schizophrenic performance.
Everything's sort of weird and all her dialogue sort of stylized like this.
It's like she's in a movie from the 50s.
Yeah, definitely seems like she's trying out.
It's very streetcar.
Nothing about that character really dictates that.
No.
But I don't know.
I picture somebody like Jane Goodall.
Yeah.
But I picture somebody who's really in tune with nature.
That's another perfect example of where the animated series just knocked that one out of the park. I mean, it was just her ability. It was just homegrown. It was just something that she was born with. Yeah. I don't know why with these movies they feel like they have to go so far out of the way to design these absurd and ridiculous origins.
The animated series because one where her and Harley Quinn go on the run together.
Oh, Harley and Ivy. Also Paul Dini.
Very, very much implies that she could love a woman in that, and there's a lot of homosexual subtext to that. And this one, she seems crushed that Mr. Freeze is still hung up on his wife.
Yeah.
She's like, no room for another woman in my show.
It does kind of betray the character. I mean, she's very much a Silent Spring kind of hippie chick. Yeah. Like that's who she is. So she's a very I picture her being sort of a free love kind of person.
These renditions of these characters just kind of do them all a disservice. And I'm the kind of person who believes that there are all these different incarnations of Batman. There's your Batman from Brave and the Bold. There's your Batman from the animated series. There's your Batman from Dark Knight Returns.
There's your Batman 66.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all these different, and they all feel true. They all feel valid. The Schumacher Batmans, not so much. They feel farcical to me, and not in a good way.
Notes that sort of remind you of things, but it's not really inherently that character.
Yeah.
Like the Riddler in Batman Forever is just a little bit too silly.
Right.
And the menace is kind of gone. Even Frank Gorshin, who was our silliest Riddler, there was menace, there because he
that's
had
the thing.
crazy eyes. Jim Carrey has a crazy mouth.
It always feels like Jim Carrey's trying to do Frank Gorshin.
It absolutely does, but nobody does Frank Gorshin but Frank Gorshin.
Yeah.
And that's the other problem with Forever is that it feels like Tommy Lee Jones is also trying to do Frank Gorshin. He's trying to do Jim Carrey doing Frank Gorshin.
Kevin Spacey went wrong with Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
He was trying to do Gene Hackman. I'm just like, stop it. Just, you're already a fantastic actor. Do you, man?
Yeah.
What Tommy Lee Jones does in Men in Black with Will Smith is what he should have done with Two-Face.
Absolute straight man.
Yeah,
to
reserved.
It would have strengthened Jim Carrey's performance.
Without a
too,
doubt.
had he done that.
I've always felt that Poison Ivy is a gay man's idea of what heterosexual males desire.
No, that's
in a
dead.
way.
That is dead
I don't
on.
think that's unreasonable. I don't think that's unreasonable.
She's vamping. There's a part in it I pointed out when we watched this. She looks like Divine.
Yeah,
her makeup looks like Divine.
She's like
Absolutely.
literally like 1 or 2 steps away from being a drag queen.
Oh, absolutely.
Joel Schumacher just never portrays her in a heterosexual, feminine way.
But I mean, there was no real female outlet for that in Forever either. Like, who knows what we would have gotten there where it was dialed back a little bit.
All we had was
Here
a
where
damsel in distress.
Yeah,
right. So in here where it's all unchecked, right? Yeah, that's what you get. But what about Alicia Silverstone?
What about her? I'm just kidding.
She feels like an afterthought in this movie.
I think she seems like, to me, all right, Clueless was a big hit like a year before that. We got to get her in there. Here you go.
Shooting for another demographic, trying to get, I don't know.
Joel Schumacher never really bought into.
If you look at every other Batman movie, there's always a key element of Batman trying to resolve his lifestyle with some sort of love interest that is never explained why it doesn't exist anymore in the next one. The only one that makes sense is from Returns to Forever, because obviously Catwoman is dead or not dead
Still
or whatever.
there.
She's unreformable.
Pretty flighty, too.
He's trying to live a life with Vicky Vale in the first one, and then Nicole Kidman, who kind of gets him in that one. In this one, the minute his girlfriend mentions marriage, he's like... Which, this one, it's all about trying to live a life with Robin. A lot of male bonding in this movie. And a woman shows up to kind of wreck that a
She's the
little bit.
usurper.
Yeah.
Alicia Silverstone, that girl, is the Batbeard.
Oh, God.
She's there to give Robin cover.
I'd like to help Batman and Robin.
This movie has a gaze that loves the male body. I mean, everybody made fun of it because there's nipples on the Batsuit.
But it extends way beyond
it
that.
It very much does. Yeah. That
the nipples on the Batsuit are almost like a diversion from just how much we're focusing on people's crotches.
The crotches, just that party, all the sweaty, oiled, faux Samoan tribesman bodies are just like oiled muscle all over the place. So it's like it's clearly a feminine, if not gay, perspective on the male body. This movie loves the male body, and I feel like maybe a few years ago, that was not something mainstream America was comfortable with. You could see oiled up muscle men, but they had to be like fighting each other.
Right, yeah.
They had to be like Greco-Roman wrestlers or Arnold, you son of a bitch.
Not gay at all.
Yeah, it's got a cover to it.
Right.
Now, you go to every Marvel movie has that.
Right.
Whoa, look how hunky this guy is. Look
the
what
shirt off scene.
Yeah, the shirt off.
Chris Evans for the win.
Not forget Pratt's prison spray down, and then
Where he's sprayed with like mustard. Yeah,
yeah,
that was huge.
Age of Ultron went out of its way to have Thor take his shirt off, take a bath halfway through the movie. Remember?
We live in a post-Magic Mike world where it's totally okay to watch a movie with just dude flesh all over the place, and even straight men are like, this is for the ladies.
Yeah,
that's cool.
In '97, that was not the case.
That is not
right.
a cool thing
You're
to do.
Absolutely right.
So this movie is kind of a mess.
That's one way of putting it.
It did not look great going in. From the trailer, even though that trailer was fairly well put together,
pretty good.
There were already too many characters. Batgirl, Poison Ivy, Bane.
Even back then, we were all complaining about that.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, just this huge proliferation of characters.
Especially when you consider that someone like Mr. Freeze was strong enough to carry an entire film on his own.
We know that, but like...
You could see from the beginning, though, that the tone of the movie was different. Like, even Batman Forever, which is a fairly goofy movie, the underlying story about that is about a guy who is obsessed with and wants to become Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Like, the Riddler is clearly the lead antagonist of that film, and he is, I want to be Bruce Wayne, and if I can't be Bruce Wayne, I will destroy him. That's a pretty dark vibe. But in this one, the undercurrent of the movie is just Arnold yelling, "Kill them! Kill the heroes!
But that's
I'm a bad guy!"
But it's kind of interesting that you say that too, because like up until this point, up until Batman and Robin, the villain was always kind of the main character.
Yeah.
Like the joke.
That's how Batman
was
works.
a top build.
Arnold's
the
top
Riddler
build.
were
Yeah.
all the main characters up until this point. But I mean, you watch Batman and Robin, and it's not clear that Mr. Freeze is the main character of the movie.
Yeah, he just sort of walks in and out of the scenes of the movie.
Right. I mean, we understand that he's got wife issues, but like...
And by the way, I say walks in and out of the scenes, he usually bursts in with his freeze car.
Like the snowmobile?
It's like the Kool-Aid Man. He bursts through 3 different walls in this film.
Yeah, lots of wall bursting.
Who's going to clean up this mess?
This set of 4 Batman movies is all about the actor playing the villain. It's not about the villain itself.
Right.
That first one is all about Jack Nicholson.
Oh, yeah.
That second one is all about, look at how disgusting Danny DeVito is. Yeah. And the third one
Well,
is
and let's not
all
forget about Michelle Pfeiffer, who's a pretty big part of that one.
She is, but I think in terms of who your focal point is in that movie, because the makeup effects and everything else, I think the Penguin was kind of the focal point of that movie in terms of villains anyway.
Yeah.
And there was no real gray area with him, other than the fact that he had several gray areas on his body. But and this movie follows suit. I don't believe that that's Mr. Freeze. I don't believe that that's the Riddler. I don't believe that this is the Joker. I believe that these are the actors.
They're doing themselves as the
Exactly.
character.
I mean, it clearly took until a real filmmaker and a real actor to get a good mix of the two with Batman Begins.
Yeah, Bale really does play the dichotomy.
With the exception of his voice, God.
Which is apparently a thing that we're stuck with for a while.
Tell me, do you bleed?
I guess so.
I think it's only going to get worse
yeah.
from here, now that it's electronically modified.
He's just going to become the Scream villain
He's
eventually.
going to sound like Daft Punk by the time it's all over.
Every franchise, like, I feel like, reaches its nadir where people start doing extreme sports.
When it becomes a Mountain Dew,
Yes.
you know there's not much fuel left in the tank.
This is late 90s, so this is the peak of, like, X Games. Like, yeah, rad, dude, you know, culture. Somebody market tested, like, what are we going to do to make Batman cool? Like,
Exactly.
what if he sky surfs?
Well, this is the first action sequence in the movie, too. It's like they knew that our attention span would dwindle the farther into this movie we got.
And boy, were they
so
right.
they piled it all on top heavy, and nothing that comes after that measures up to that level of insanity.
If you watch a James Bond movie and he's snowboarding or any of that stuff, you can already tell they didn't think this one out too hard.
There was, to be fair, an episode of the 60s Batman series where he did surf against the Joker.
True,
and I'm not saying that justifies anything that came afterwards, but the precedent was set.
Fair enough.
It's just respecting its
They were like,
roots.
all right, Batman has surfed before. We got to take this shit into the sky.
There you go. No, I think we should take a moment to talk about Elliot Goldenthal's contribution to...
We should talk about Elliot Goldenthal and the soundtrack album that resulted from this as well.
Yes, without a doubt. First of all, it's got to be pretty hard to come on the heels of Danny Elfman. Love Batman Returns or not, the score for Batman Returns is fantastic.
And he created a theme that was iconic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So both the score for the Burton movies, even the soundtrack for Forever, it's like this movie's got a lot to live up to, really.
But the score for this one, man, it is abrasive.
It's like the entire horn section got up on their feet and started just running around blindfolded.
If I could visualize the orchestra in my head, it's just all brass. Except for that one scene where
With the
there's
drums.
like a title drum.
Yeah.
It's just so...
And that was incidental anyway.
It's
It was
like
not even...
he only hired the brass.
It's-
And didn't even was like, I don't need woodwinds or anything.
Like, they're all in there, but they're just, like, they look at their sheet music, it's just blank. There's nothing to do.
It's so weird.
got up and left.
Goldenthal is another one that's like, you hear like previous scores from him and you think, in addition to like Joe Schumacher as a director, you think, yeah, I'd buy that. And then you hear his end product and it's like, this is worst impulses.
Just like Schumacher.
Yeah. He clearly has
This
like
is a playground for that.
he has a flair
And
for
usually that's
theatrical.
Vegas.
Not
Gotham here looks a lot like Vegas.
If this film were to win an Academy Award, what category would have to exist for it to win that award. Like in an alternate dimension scenario. Brian, let's start off with you.
I would say best use of Coolio in the year 1997.
What else was Coolio up to in 1997?
In 97, not a whole lot. He was coming off of Dangerous Minds,
Exactly,
and that whole thing.
You
Like
could
that
argue
was
that was his peak.
that was the apex.
Franklin.
I would give this the award for best microcosmic performance by an actor who was on the right page with the director of what movie he was making that no one else could reach. And I would give that award
How many commas were in that category?
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
At least 3. And that award would go to John Glover. He is just
Fantastic.
so
Really
spectacular
good.
in this
Really
movie.
Just
He's
chewing
the
it up.
linchpin that holds this movie together.
How much worse would it have been had he not been there?
Movies should be allowed, honestly, one person who should be allowed to shoot the scenery. And then he chews it up, and then it's ground completely bare. And then everyone else is like, well, there's nothing else left to shoot.
Exactly.
And so that is kind of why we're lost in a desert of nonsense.
It's
with
normally
the
Michael
rest of the movie.
Ironside in that role. Luckily, this time it was John Glover.
Batman and Robin should win the award for best closet biopics. Because, and I pluralize that for a reason, because everybody is essentially just playing themselves in this movie. Sort of dovetailing off of the idea of all the villains playing themselves. But everybody in this movie is playing themselves. Bruce Wayne is just a commitment-phobic cad in this.
Marriage?
The minute that Elle McPherson
Fierce.
brings up commitment in this, he's like, ooh, babe, I got elements of my
It's
life
like
I can't
live
talk
too.
about.
It's like he's talking to the news media at that point too. It's like
Elle McPherson herself is literally arm candy, which is, she's a model. That's what she does best. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a hyper-intelligent super athlete. He's got a delicate woman, and then he's got a much more fierce, exotic woman on the side that he's clearly having fun with. If you have not seen it, please look up the video where Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s goes to Carnival and talks about asses for 15 minutes. It is amazing.
After watching the mulattoes shake it, I can absolutely understand why Brazil is totally devoted to my favorite body part, the ass.
I don't so much know.
You need to watch it. There's a video of him like dressed in like tribal outfit with like Indian paint on his face, and he's like dancing
doesn't
around.
sound offensive in any way.
No, it's amazing. And then of course we've got Chris O'Donnell, who's just pissed off and fighting for his place in the world.
He's struggling to be heard.
In a very loud movie, he's trying to be the loudest.
I'm going solo.
I would have to give Batman and Robin the award for the best death knell in a franchise, the best nail in the coffin for a once beloved film franchise. That particular neck of the franchise peaked with the first one, peaked with Nicholson and Keaton and Burton and Elfman, and just kind of went down this slope the whole rest of the way. And by the time we got to the end, it felt like Star Trek. It's just like we reached this point where Star Trek just didn't work anymore, and we needed someone new to come along and rejuvenate it. If not for this swan song, Nolan would not have been able to come in and sweep us off our feet with his trilogy.
Nolan was also able to capture some sort of inherent quality in all of these characters that made them the iconic characters they are.
The only other franchise I can think of that would come close would be Die Another Day, to just put the James Bond franchise
Right, exactly.
just restart it.
Exactly.
Let's start all over again.
Burned it to the ground.
What superhero movies came out after this and before X-Men, and I believe you mentioned Blade?
Yeah.
Spawn.
Ooh. Total failure.
Ooh. Steel.
Ooh. Yes.
But you look at Steel and the execution of that movie. The line between that and Superman is not clear.
Right.
This is the death knell for what we would consider like the 90s style comic book movie.
I would think everything that comes previous to this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the final word on everything. Because I mean, at least when Superman 4 came out, you had the Batman franchise there to pick up the torch and run with it. But when this movie came out, there was nothing left.
Yeah.
Playing field had been leveled.
And I don't think Blade counts.
I agree.
Blade does not count.
You could watch that movie and not know it has anything to do with the Marvel
Exactly.
Universe.
Absolutely.
The rebirth of the comic book movie in the 21st century is X-Men.
As bad as it is, it's
now,
the one we
when
have
I
to
saw
thank.
that movie, it felt like a revelation. And now when I go back, it's pretty rough.
It gave us X-Men gave us a lot to build on.
Yeah,
like a lot of that '90s aesthetic is still there because they didn't know how to do it any differently.
I think the thing that was key, and it does it so poorly now compared to some of the stuff we've gotten, other than the Salkin's Superman movie, that takes the source material seriously. It's like, oh yeah, people like this because these characters work. You know, they decide to garble the backstory up to make it more cinematic.
Bring it down
for an hour and 40-minute long movie.
Put everybody in leather because costumes are silly. It's
and
still
The Matrix just came out.
Very true. It's the first movie that says, why will someone want to watch a movie about a Canadian guy with metal claws? Because he's fucking awesome. That's why. Like, it's the first movie to take a silly idea like that seriously.
That makes all the difference. It was treated with more sincerity than most things had been.
We only got better from there. I mean, the Spider-Man franchise is rock solid until that third one.
Yeah, most of that is good.
Guys, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming. Comic book movies, woo. We're in a golden age now.
The Renaissance.
The Bad Movie Drinking Game. I'm Kurt. This has been fun. Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you so much, Franklin. Thank you so much, Brian.
Absolutely.
Everybody, have a good night.
Peace.
Bye.
Batman got on my nerves. He was running me amok. He ridiculed me, calling me a bum. I whooped Batman's ass. 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 Batman thought he was bad. He was a fucking asshole in the first place. He got knocked to the floor. I whooped Batman's ass.
We were talking about this on the way over, about how, like, the one thing we each remember about this movie, and it's like, the one thing I remember about this movie is, like, the one, like, kind of cool moment. And for my money, there's one awesome moment in this that kind of promises something greater than what the movie delivers, and I want to see if you recognize it. When it happens, I want to see if you can spot it.
Exactly, because unlike you, I have absolutely no recollection whatsoever of anything cool happening in this movie. So.
And I don't want to build it up, because you might think nothing cool. It's not very good.
I'm going to be like, that was it? That was it?
Yeah, no,
Never
it's
speaking
just,
to you again.
It's just kind of a nice little touch. That's all.
Well, I'll keep an eye out for that.
I have a recollection of a lot of cool things happening in this movie. It's called All of It.
You know who has a recollection of a lot of cool things happening in this movie?
Joel Schumacher.
Arnold. A lot of cool
Oh, yeah, he sure does.